I'm here to talk about my daughter's brain and medicine, and I do come from an emotional place with what happened. I am very, very lucky. We are very lucky because she is about to be discharged from her neuro rehabilitation unit. So that's the end of the story, and that's it. No. Let's see. I want to make sure I cover everything. One of the reasons I came here is because I wanted to raise awareness. It's hard as a black woman, as a single mother, because I don't see a lot of faces that look like mine in the audience. I'm sorry, I'm emotional.
You got this,
sorry. So it's hard to be here, but it's something I wanted to do for my daughter's sake, as well as part of my journey for what we've been through. So one of the things I did was put on the slide how long we were in the hospital. Was admitted to the hospital on the 18th of August, and she was discharged into a neurorehabilitation unit on the 3rd of December. She had a last seizure on the 1st of September, so I'm very grateful that she hasn't had any seizures since then. She started with symptoms of headache. She had a real aversion to bright lights, and she was a moody teenager anyway, so it was really hard to understand and reconcile that. I just wanted to talk about some of the things I learned in the 117 days that I was in the hospital. I learned that time is relative. While I was in there, it did feel like 1,117 days. Sometimes you were just waiting for care that you just deserve for your child, and it wasn't coming, and that was frustrating at the end of the day. I learned how to spell encephalitis. E-N-K, the first time I heard it, E-N-K, no, so write it down. I learned about the trouble with, and by the trouble with, I mean in terms of familiarity. I learned that, I'm ashamed to say, a lot of the care that I got in terms of her registered mental health nurse were from people like me, and there was a lot of, well, she's a woman in ripped jeans, and she should be more humble, and she shouldn't challenge, and she should just accept that the doctor is always right, and I'm not disputing that you are. The doctor is always right, and not question anything. She should just accept that they know what they're doing, and they're in the right, and that was hard for me as a parent. I learned about stubborn people. There was a time when one of the nurses said I had to leave the hospital, and because of the way we came to be in the hospital, I wrote a story for the Encephalitis Society website. Because of the way we came to be in the hospital, where she was sent home so many times, I made a point of fighting every time I was told to go home. I wouldn't leave my daughter's side when she got sick. I had to deal with the fact that, unfortunately, it doesn't, I think someone said it doesn't discriminate. Encephalitis doesn't discriminate. I don't care what color you are. But sadly, in my culture, and this is probably an unfair generalization, in my culture, it's people just focus on the presentation of the mental symptoms of encephalitis. It doesn't matter that actually she's got a brain inflammation, and everybody that came through the door, I made it a point to say, actually, her brain is on fire. It's not just about the fact that she's pressing the hospital, the red alarm buzzer 20,000 times. Her brain is on fire. These are the symptoms of her brain being inflamed. What else? Learned a lot about seizure medications, the side effects of encephalitis, benzos. I haven't heard that word in so long. I wasn't sure whether I could mention them by name, but I will, and then you can cut me out if I'm wrong. I learned about lacosamide. I learned about Keppra. I learned about the stuff you give to help with the mood swings that I was having as a parent. We talked earlier about the Mental Capacity Act. It was sectioned. She was put under Mental Section 2, and then 30 days later, 28 days later, she was sectioned, put under Section 3. I learned all about how that process works, because I challenged it stubbornly. One of the things I think was really important, because I was in the hospital for all that time, with the exception of discharge, premature discharge overnight on the 31st of August. One of the things I learned that was really important was how important fresh air is for you in that kind of situation. As a parent, it was something that I fought really hard for because there's rules around the Mental Health Act in Section 17. She needs to have permission to leave, just to go for a walk in the hospital grounds. And sometimes that's all she needed to feel better. If you're stuck in a room for maybe 18, 19 hours a day, and you can't, it's a white room with nothing, it can be a hard thing to endure as a parent and as a person with encephalitis. I learned about young adult policies. The hospital I was in has a policy where the best way to describe it is on some days she was an adult and on other days she was a child. And I need to revert a bit and say it wasn't always the worst experience. I am very, very thankful that we are, I can stand here and have this conversation with you. But I felt that when it suited, it was an adult and they sectioned her without consulting me, and it was a challenge and it was war, and I had to find a lawyer and to help her through the process. And the lawyer wasn't anyway, that's another story, but the lawyer wasn't my favorite person. I learned that a neuropsychologist can be one and the same person. I had a CAM specialist, and she also had a neurologist. You can actually have both at the same time, which is something I didn't realize until I was in there for the 117 days. What else? What helped us? Now, I just want to be very clear about this. When I say what helped us, I mean my family. I appreciate everybody's story here is individual to them, and it's different for them. So I wouldn't want to just generalize on that basis, but I want to be very clear that this is what helped me and my daughter and my other daughter get through this process. I was stubborn. I challenged everything. I did my own research. About a week ago, before I came here, saw something on Instagram that said, my medical degree is not the same as your Google search, but actually it gives me the impetus to ask a lot of questions. One of the great things about the internet is the opportunity that it gives you to be able to poke and prod, and it means I can hold my pen and paper with confidence when I'm asking the senior consultant about why he's insisting on upping the risperidone dose for my daughter, because actually she's not calm, she's not, she wants to go for a walk. That helped a lot. I think Google became my best friend. One of the things I had to do is part the guilt and helplessness and my pride. I asked for help from everybody. There are a lot of cab drivers that have probably spoken to me. I spoke to everybody. I spoke to the bus driver. I asked everybody and anybody for help. I spoke to people that were my enemies and my friends. I didn't care. I set up WhatsApp groups. I shut them down. I learned to use Twitter. I've never used Twitter because I wanted to tweet the health secretary to say, we've been waiting for a lumbar puncture that was coming on Monday, and it's Friday, and she's not getting any better. We've been waiting for a medication that she was meant to be given at 8 p.m. to calm her, and we haven't got it yet. Why? So I learned to do, that's what helped me. I paid attention. I think paying attention when I had her first grand mal seizure that I witnessed made all the difference, because I saw that she was having many seizures afterwards. As a mother, you can't help but be braver. I don't know how many people in here are parents, but you can't help but be braver about your child. I don't know where my strength came from. All I know was I had tunnel vision because I love my children and they mean the world to me. And literally, there were stages in there that I kept saying to the doctors, test me. Maybe it's genetic. Maybe it's a genetic disorder. Take my blood. What can I do to help? Because I just wanted to do everything to help, and I never stopped, and I think that's where I got most of my energy from. One of the other things I think was really useful for me was learning to care for myself, for both my children's sake. I think for a long time I was running on just adrenaline and anger and frustration and just a desire to get the best treatment for at the right time. And there was a time I was in the hospital, and I did sleep there for lots of times because I was stubborn and I wasn't going home. I woke up and I couldn't breathe. I went to get up and my chest was hurting, and maybe that was the trigger point to actually take some time just for myself. I saw pretty much in the 117 days every day, bar 2 days, because it was important to me. I probably slept there in the hospital for maybe 80 of those days, and I have it, and my other daughter's 12 at the time. I probably took time out when a friend of mine came and said to me, she's in the best place for her. Nobody here is trying to harm your child, and you have to remember that they're trying to help her. Yes, it did make it frustrating that there was a bit of misdiagnosis at the start, because in the first 3 weeks I was misdiagnosed with viral encephalitis. They gave her treatment for that, and then they realized that actually she's got autoimmune encephalitis. Making it quick. I just wanted to quickly finish on and say that I can't thank you enough, or the helpline enough, or the website enough. I think one of the things that really helped me was your stories, and that was another reason it was important for me to be here today, because I can empathize with a lot of what was going on. When I was reading those stories, I didn't think it would get as far as it did. I thought, oh, she's not going to get sectioned, she's going to be fine. And we ended up where we did, and it's still a journey for me and my family, but I really am grateful to the Encephalitis Society, because it helped me to realize that I'm not alone, we're not alone, it's not alone. This has happened to other people, and we have much to do about raising awareness, but we are on the right track to getting there. Last one. I wanted to leave you with, I didn't say, the one on the left, and my younger daughter is on the right. I wanted to leave you with this. My family is broken, but we are more better for it. My general counsel at work referred to a method called, it's an art form in Japan, kintsugi, kintsukuroi. It means it's a way of breaking a piece of porcelain and melding it back together with gold. And it says, what is the significance of this artwork? It says, when an object breaks, it doesn't mean that it is no more useful. Breakages can become valuable. We should try to repair things, because sometimes in doing so, we obtain more valuable objects. This is the essence of resilience. Each of us should look for a way to cope with traumatic events in a positive way and learn from negative experiences. Take the best from them and convince ourselves that exactly this experience makes each person unique and precious. Our love is precious in my house, and our experience is unique to us as a family, and I'm just grateful to be here, so thank you.